And that's how it happened. The words came out sloppy and sort of squelchy. I tried to sound sober, over enunciating my next sentence. That's how I killed her. An hour before, I'd pulled off the interstate onto the main street of a dusty little town, ironically named Flourish, population 71. It was somewhere between the intersection of nothing and nowhere, but it had the two things I needed and wanted the most: a tavern and a small motel. I walked to the motel first, paid for one night, and dropped my backpack in the room, then headed straight to the tavern a few doors down, hell bent on getting drunk. I sat at the bar, paying little attention to the other patrons, of which there were few, and ordered a whiskey and beer chaser. Just as I was about to order my third shot, the man a few bar stools down began to cough. I was pretty sure he hadn't been there when I sat down. When the coughing fit stopped and I asked if he was okay, he turned to me and said, "Fine, just fine. But you, kid, you look like you've been dragged through hell and back." He was old and worn out, his skin leathery, a severe red scar on his neck, his hair white and sparse, but his eyes were bright and sharp, and his smile was warm. I looked into the dingy bar-back mirror and saw a haggard version of my former self in its reflection. I'm not a bad-looking guy. I keep myself fit, muscled, well-groomed, but today was definitely the exception. My normally neat and trim brown hair was too long and starting to curl around the edges in an unkempt manner. A long scab graced my forehead. I'd only just gotten the cut hours before, but as a ghost killer, I healed very fast, and it would be gone in another day or so. My t-shirt had blood on it, but it was dry now and mostly blended with the dark color of the shirt. I looked into the mirror again and caught the old man's gaze, then nodded and smiled. "Yeah, that about sums it up." He replied by saying that he was a damn good listener, and if I was interested in talking, he'd be happy to hear what I had to say. It turned out I was interested, so I talked and drank. By the time I'd slurred my last words, the old guy had started coughing again, and when he got it under control, he waved at the bartender for another round. He'd been putting bourbon away almost as fast as I'd been downing whiskey, but his level of inebriation didn't hold a candle to my own. He finally said, "That's a hell of a story, kid. I'm sorry about your friend. Maybe you should give this whole quest of yours up and go home." I looked at him through the bar-back mirror. His eyes had narrowed and turned an inky color. His skin looked gray, and the wrinkles appeared to slither and move. He grinned at me, his teeth darkly discolored. A front tooth was chipped to a jagged and violent point, and two others were missing. He looked like a ghoul. I shook my head to clear it and looked back at the mirror, where clear hazel eyes and a light smile on a rough and wrinkled face reflected back at me. The old man's forehead furrowed, and he asked, "You okay, kid?" I'd spent the last week chasing a monster so vicious it could unleash an army of ghosts and demons, and it killed indiscriminately. What I thought I just saw in the mirror could only have been brought on by my recent experiences and the fact that I was damn good and drunk. But deep down inside my brain, something was screaming, trying to tell me to run. I just wasn't listening.